Good morning and welcome to Thorpe Park Resort, which is our destination for this opening weekend. And it is Thorpe Park's opening weekend, Kurt.
Yes.
Because they didn't open, did they?
No.
And we have no water rides today on what is quite a warm day. Funny, we're all wearing a jacket because we need the zips, don't we?
Yeah.
We need the zips.
It's warm.
We need the zips. Now, before we go any further, obviously we will go through the entry to the park, because the entry to the park is quite important. It wasn't as well laid out as Legoland, I wouldn't say. It was a bit hit and miss. So entering was quite easy, temperature check was quite easy. Parking isn't really staggered, to be honest with you. People are parking right next to us, no one was told to move over, so the parking wasn't particularly staggered. Queuing was a bit of a nightmare. It's all a bit close, to be fair, and you know, we're being told to keep 2 meters apart whilst they continue to push people through the security checks, so that didn't particularly feel very well. And then the only benefit they got was when they did open the actual gates, they did only let a few people in from the main queue into the actual entrance area, so there wasn't a free-for-all at the entrance like there was at Legoland. Once inside, nothing's laid out on the floor, there's no markings on the floor. You know, we kind of had a little walk around before we do some rides. We're going to hit Colossus and then probably hit Samurai and then check out some of the rides around here. Inferno's sort of open but not open, Stealth's just opening. It's all a bit late at the moment, and we did read that from yesterday's performance as well. What's what? Swarm. Swarm's open. I expect Swarm to be working. So yeah, it's all a bit, it wasn't as seamless, was it? It wasn't quite as seamless as what Legoland was yesterday, but it is early days. We'd like to see how the rides are operating, and we kind of want to see how they're loading them, and we'll kind of reserve judgment from there. Let's see Stealth through the tree. I swear these trees have got bigger. Unbelievably, it's been 9 months since we set foot in Thorpe Park, and it's just staggering. You know, it's the 5th of July today. It's just staggered, absolutely staggered that we've not been to Thorpe Park since October last year. It really is. We're expecting it to be busy. It does seem to be busy. As we said, all the water rides are closed. Darren Brown's closed. The new attraction doesn't open until next year. Rush is shut as well, and we know there's been lots and lots of problems. But I think we're going to have to just get into a queue and just suck it up if we want to get on some rides. You can see they have replaced some of the boards around. There are no paper maps.
There's been quite a few of these, actually.
Yeah, there's quite a few safety notices around, but no paper maps whatsoever. So I don't know how that...
Apart from the safety leaflet.
Yeah, I don't know how that feels for a collector's item, but safety leaflet is all we've had. Stealth is on a 75-minute queue. Yeah, it's going to be a busy one.
Right, guys, welcome to Colossus. Please make your way across the platform to any box ditch bags in.
And no, there are no changes to Logger's Leap. We started the day with Colossus, so we've just come off Colossus, headed down to Samurai before coming down here. Now Colossus is a very, very strange one, because all the other coasters we've seen either here or at Alton Towers or at Chessington are loading every other row, regardless. And they were doing it on Mia's Riding Adventure as well. Didn't matter if you were in a group of family, it was every other row, every other one was shut off. And yet here they're batching in 4s. I have no idea why. So it's the front 4 cars, then you miss 4, and then you back in 4, then you miss 4. So twice then, the car's left with less than 8 people on. And I'm just baffled, absolutely baffled, because you've got a group of 1, he takes up all 4 seats. All 4 seats. And there's a group of 2, and they both took up another 4 seats, and so on and so on and so on. I have no idea what they're thinking, absolutely no idea. Bearing in mind the back seats of Colossus are a bit tight anyway, to be honest. Anyone with any kind of build. Okay. I've heard that more today than any other notice.
Is not permitted.
And why they're not doing every other is beyond me. So if they do every other, they are guaranteed, you know, 14 people on that ride. You know, there might be a group of 3 where someone sits on their own, I do understand that, but 14 people, it's leaving with no one on it, absolutely no one on it, and it's just baffling. It really is baffling to see, and yet Stealth isn't doing that, by looks of things. Swarm is loading fully. Inferno is running every other row, which again is a bit odd because Nemesis is running every row, but there may be a reason for it. And it's just, yeah, it's really weird. Now, we did get front row of Colossus. I haven't had front row in ages of Colossus. And of course, you can't queue for it now. You just sort of get put there. And that was great ride, really comfortable, no complaints at all. Then we've gone to Samurai. Now Samurai is it was a bit late opening. I think we got the first ride of the day because they're still running 15 people. So again, if you've got groups of 1 or 2 or even 2 or 3, you know, they need a minimum 15 people to run the ride. So sometimes if there's a larger group of 4, it will go ahead of you. But I have to say, it's the best ride I've had on Samurai in a long time, a real long time. It was really quite forceful. There were some great hang time moments. Felt like I had a little bit of power to it and wasn't parking too badly. So really quite impressed with that. Now we are going to head over to Nemesis Inferno and see what the queue is like there. I think the only thing we've noticed so far is the cleaning regime. It's every 30 minutes, same as it was at Legoland, but it does seem to take them longer. They seem to have hand sprays rather than the backpacks which Legoland had. So it does seem to take them a lot longer to do. Bearing in mind, throughput here is probably more important, I would say, than what it is at Legoland in this current climate. But either way, they're getting it clean. We had no problems on it and we got on it fine. So yeah, it's been all right. It's not an awful lot open. Saw doesn't look like it's opening. And of course, we are getting a bit fed up of seeing members of staff walking around with no face masks. Can't understand it. Merlin made it quite clear that all their members of staff would be wearing face masks, and we've seen so many that haven't. So far on our trips to Legoland for Zoo Days and Legoland, we've seen no member of staff without a face mask. None at all. So we're a little bit baffled. We are a little bit baffled, given that was the safety advice that Merlin were giving to come and visit their theme park. Either way, Nemesis Inferno.
We're proud that Thorpe Park Resort is a smoke-free park, and smoking and the use of e-cigarettes is not permitted in non-designated areas.
So of course, most of our updates have been coming from that side of the fence over the last 9 months, because obviously the park hasn't been open. We just had a ride there on Nemesis Inferno. Advertised at a 65-minute queue. Took about 25 minutes. I think the most painful thing is definitely the cleaning of it. It does seem to take a long time. I understand why they're doing it. It's every half an hour, same as it was at Legoland. But it does seem to take an awfully long time. And coincidentally, actually, there's quite a lot of sanitizer going in, but there's not a single sanitizing unit coming out. Not a single one. Blair Witch still advertised. Little's been said about Fright Nights. It looks like they're going ahead. They've been reduced to a 5 o'clock finish most of the event, which is, you know, a real shame. And I would think that Blair Witch will be staying indeed for the Fright Nights period. How they're going to do it, I don't really know. So we got front row there on Nemesis Inferno. You can't queue for a row. You're literally directed straight to it. And we caught really lucky because we got a front row on Colossus, which we haven't had in years, absolute years. And we just have front row on Nemesis Inferno as well. That's loading much better than Colossus. Much better than Colossus. Much better, in fact. So it's loading every other row. Now we have heard that Nemesis is loading every row. So again, a little bit confusing about that. But yeah, you know, we won't complain. It's going quite quick. Here's our hand sanitizer. But we have walked now right the way down there and touched all the handrails. So I think it probably would have been better being at the top. Shop isn't open, as you can see. Any photos being taken, all off, nothing at all. Nemesis Inferno running smoothly. Stealth has still got a 75-minute queue. You know, Swarm looks like it's running at full capacity because of the way the seats are, which will be really handy. Yeah, it's a really odd day. I think at Legoland we felt much more relaxed and it just seemed to flow a lot nicer. You know, the bins in Nemesis Inferno as well, we didn't photo them or video them. They're all shut up, they've forgotten to open them. You know, Chessington bolted theirs open, Legoland had shrink wrap theirs open. And of course, most of their normal bins are like this. But they've completely forgotten about the ones in the queue line. So yeah, it's a bit hit and miss to be fair so far, but we have got some more rides we want to get on and more things we want to do. In case you're wondering why they shouldn't be selling photos, there it is. I mean,
way too many people.
so we're headed over to the Swarm. Kurt's just been out to get lunch and we're handed a ticket. So you don't not stamp in your hand, so they've handed you a ticket with the date on. It's a shame that the staff members don't know what the date is. It's a real bit of a problem. However, we're heading on Swarm because it's running at full capacity. So at full capacity, it's got a 5-minute queue. So why not? But this one is one of the very few rides that is still selling photos. And of course they're selling photos and having no markings on the floor when you leave the station. It's a free-for-all at the end.
Well, it says it's got spots, but I didn't see
Yeah,
them.
it hasn't got spots at the end. It's got spots in the queue line, but it hasn't got spots in the end. I think they've just gone through the deep clean. So we're going to head into the entrance now. It says it's a 30-minute queue.
10, 15 minutes.
But it's right at the entrance, it's fully loading. I know they're going through the cleaning on it, but I don't think it's going to be a problem. Got to try and sanitize. Nothing came out. Nothing came out of mine. I'll get one out of my bag. We did bring our own sanitizer. So yeah, it's a bit mixed. I'm not going to lie, it's a bit mixed today. There's some things they're doing really, really well and things they're not doing well. The current count so far as well is 11 members of staff we've seen not wearing face coverings, which was one of the Merlin guidelines. That includes the person at security that rechecked our bag on entrance, not wearing face covering, going into our bag. That includes several management team we've seen, nice shirts, litter pickers, not wearing them out and about in the park. I have to say, we haven't seen this yet at Chessington and Legoland. This is a first for us. So yeah, a little bit shocking.
Yes.
A little bit shocking. Anyway, we want to get on the Swarm, and that's where we're heading.
Watch them all crowd outside.
So it does look like the beamwork has been redone. I don't remember it being quite like that from when it was stripped back, and you can kind of see the holes in the wall over here where the old one used to be. But yeah, Swarm, about the only ride I can think of where no social distancing required. It's already set out really nicely, which means it's at full capacity, which means we can get on pretty quickly, hopefully. Cod, head to the back. Why the photo booths open on Swarm is beyond me. Absolute free-for-all. Anyway, the Swarm.
And they open the gates to let more people on whilst you're still trying to
The Swarm's really good actually. We really enjoyed the Swarm. It's running really smoothly. It's at full capacity. It is the cleaning that seems to be a problem, to be fair, but I kind of understand the cleaning, so that's fine. They do open the gates before people have got off the ride, which seems ridiculous. We're going to go and check the queue out for Stealth, because that's our last big coaster to go on that's open. Doesn't look like Soar's opening today.
22.
So Thorpe Park, we have to wear one for protection and take a basket, and yet he doesn't have one on his face handing us the basket. This guy's cleaning, he doesn't have one. A little bit angered that obviously Merlin have put out a big thing about how they're protecting their customers, and yet the guy in the shop handing you the basket, telling you you have to take a basket around the shop, isn't wearing a face mask. We got a nice new game here, look. No basketball anymore. Obviously you can't play it this year. They used to have one of these down in Canada Creek. And I think that's where this has come from by the state of it, to be honest. I think it's just been slightly upgraded. I wonder if it will get used. No Burger King today though. Well, certainly not this one. I think the other one's open.
Yeah.
We've just seen Rock Express go round, bearing in mind that's not actually due to open today. So my guess is they are going to add some things. Might add some things, Kurt.
Yeah, which is good.
Yeah. All the arcade machines are gone from here. Cash machine's not open. So of course, will we see Fright Nights and Creek Freak Massacre later on in the year? Be really interesting to see if we will. I don't think we'll have much chance to see this for much longer. This is the Princess Diana Memorial. A little bit overgrown. the way to Zodiac, Zodiac, Zodiac. This has been open all day. I haven't seen it go up once. Sadly, no rush today. Vortex is currently closed. We went over to Stealth, but they had a massive, massive queue. So we've come back down here for some Zodiac time. There it is, there's the old beast. Hopefully quite a quick queue, hopefully. Didn't look that busy. I wouldn't mind going on Quantum actually. I haven't been on Quantum in ages. It does look like there's a lot of trees missing here. I swear there used to be more trees, but look at this, look, nearly walk on. Thorpe Park, opening weekend of 2020 in the middle of July, which is strange to say as it is. Where do we start? Well, first let's look at what we've seen new for 2020. I have to say very, very little. There's been very little changes around the park. I think one thing we noticed was the Swarm station definitely looked like it had been done up. I've moaned about those beams for ages. They seem to be okay. I've just noticed then as well that the toilets out here have been completely refurbished, which is probably more than what could be said for the ones inside the park, but the ones out here are looking really, really nice. But again, why they wouldn't put automatic flushes on them and insist on you pushing a button, I don't know. I really don't know, because Legoland look like they were refurbished this year and they look spectacular. You know, I know the toilets, but they look spectacular. And you know, more than ever now, that is massive, absolutely massive for us. Other than that, walking around the park, I can't say we've noticed anything. There's no sign of the Black Labyrinth. That's obviously now being advertised for 2021. So there's no real sign of it anywhere. There's no new rides. I wouldn't say there's been any paints, any updates or anything like that. It just seems to be nothing else to report, to be perfectly honest with you. So yeah, I have nothing else for you there. In terms of obviously the pandemic which we're in at the moment, where does it sit with Thorpe Park? Well, we were heavily praising Legoland, and I will say now, you know, we're quite critical. We don't just say you know, what the parks necessarily want us to say, because it's not productive for you guys watching that want to come out and visit. And we've been really critical of Legoland in the past, but we praised them massively, massively for their procedures, massively for the way they've gone about things. Everything about it just felt so relaxing. It was such a lovely day out. And of course, you know, Thorpe Park we used to praise really highly. And it's not that we've had a bad day. I wouldn't say we've had a bad day, but in terms of the procedures around the current pandemic, I don't think Thorpe Park have nailed it at all. Now, give them credit, the entrance to the park was much better. The queuing was okay. You know, there are obviously people that don't realise what massive yellow dots are on the floor, but that happens everywhere. The queuing was okay, and one of the massive things I have over Legoland is when they opened the shutters, they waited. You know, you had to wait before you could go through. So there was no mass rush and stupid people trying to push park, bearing in mind it's only 30% the capacity in the park. And that happened at Legoland, it didn't happen here. So that was great. But once inside, there's very little direction, / no direction, until you get into a queue line. There's the odd occasional big board, you know, and we got given a leaflet when we came in saying, you know, about symptoms and everything else. But, you know, in terms of Legoland, and people laughed that it was all laid out left and right, it just works so well, and it was engaging as well for families. You know, Thorpe Park, if they're wondering why they're not getting families back here and why they're still getting, you know, people that cause disruption, we've just seen some people ejected from the park, you know, on the opening weekend when it's restricted. You know, it's the way they go about things. You know, sanitising spots, there are sanitizer around. I'm questioning the placement of some of them on the exits of the rides, but they are there to use. We did find 3 empty ones, which we didn't find at Legoland, and I would probably argue Legoland was busier than it was here. You know, markings in the queue lines are a little bit off. I wouldn't say they're great. And you know, something that Legoland really nailed is that every so often there would be tannoys, you know, reminding you, keep 2 meters from the families, keep 2 meters from the group. This is what's expected of you. You will need to wear masks, face coverings and things. And there's been nothing here. Not a single announcement we've heard all day long. Well, we may have overheard one from the other side of Nemesis Inferno, may have. But we weren't in the queue line, and we were in the queue line for that for probably 30 minutes and heard nothing at all, not a whisper. And it doesn't help that the staff aren't at all engaging in this motion. You know, staff aren't walking around asking people to move over, separate from groups, walking through queue lines. They can't even stop smoking in this park, let alone social distancing. The staff they've always been appalling at this park, always been appalling. Not all of them, don't get me wrong, I don't want everyone to think it's all of them, but as a general rule, there's so many disinterested people at this park, it's unbelievable. And we've counted how many people now, Kurt?
44.
So 44 people without face masks. Now, and you know, let me just say, this is from entry, security, to you know, people on the admin area, to people behind shops serving you food, to ride attendants, to you know, gardeners, to maintenance people that are obviously general staff as well, that are walking among you, not people that are necessarily locked away. There are a few shop workers that are behind glass, which I might accept not wearing them, but there are lots out and about, you know, all out and about. You know, security are going through our bag without having a face covering on, which I think is disgusting. I can't even sugarcoat it for you. I think it's disgusting. You know, it was Merlin that put the massive thing out saying, come to our parks, this is what's happening. And honestly, I said to the boys, I thought Legoland was going to be the worst out of all of them. I really did, I won't lie. And Legoland has been a breath of fresh air, and today it's been a little bit edgy. It's been a little bit edgy. You know, I don't think that the park's overcrowded. I think the park is perfect, actually, with the amount of people they've got in here. You know, the fact that the rides are running the way they're running is unfortunate. They've got a few breakdowns. They've not opened as much as perhaps we initially thought they would open. And of course, you know, the staggering of seats on Colossus is staggering. It's staggering. You know, it should be every other seat. It would increase the capacity. I understand why they're leaving a gap. What I don't understand is the way they're doing it. So they're kind of making a little bit of a rod for their own back, and at the same time sticking to the regulations, which we know is going to increase queue times. We've still got on 3 of the roller coasters, a few of the flat rides today, which for a Sunday, it's 2:30 now. We've got no desire to stay any longer. It's about right. It's not any worse or any better than what it would be in the middle of July. Where do I stand on it? You know, Legoland, I said to you guys, book with confidence, 100%. Thorpe Park, I'd think twice. I genuinely think twice. At least until there's some more rides open. But Thorpe Park really need to get to grip with this. You know, this pandemic is unfortunately here to stay for the summer period. And you know, just because they feel they've got a different clientele, feels like they're behaving differently to Legoland. And even Chessington, you know, we've been to Chessington for Zoo Days and we've not seen anyone without face coverings or anyone that hasn't guided us or directed us in the right area. And sure, all the parks can do better things in, you know, one-way areas and helping with social distancing. And it'll be interesting to see when we do get to Chessington and Legoland, what it's, Chessington and Alton Towers, what it's like in the queue lines. But yeah, I'm not super impressed. It's lovely to get back on some rides. You know, there are some lovely people here. You know, generally I would say the public have been very, very good at, you know, keeping social distancing. The problem is the way some of the Thorpe Park's cattle pens are staggered. You know, where you think you're leaving 2 meters in front of you, you're not leaving 2 meters to left and right, so there's nothing on the floor. And, you know, people don't think of that. And that is kind of something that probably comes as the day goes on rather than something initially that people are going to think about. But yeah, I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced they're running as well as Legoland. And you know, even down to the things like the bins, you know, Chessington nailed their bins open so you didn't have to touch them. Legoland, much better idea, use shrink wrap so not to damage the bin. All of Thorpe Park's ones are shut. Once you're in the queue lines and things, it's like they've forgotten all about them. All the ones around the park are nice wooden ones with open slats, but all the ones in the queue lines are the push bin ones, and you've got to touch them. And I don't really, I just think this is where I'm failing to understand that all these parks are owned and operated by Merlin, and they're all running differently. You know, if someone at Legoland turned around and said, well, hang on a moment, best way to keep the bins open is this, that email in my business would have spread right the way across and we'd all be doing it. So I'm a bit baffled that they're not doing it, bit baffled. And you know, it's not very nice. I don't want to touch bin lids in this day and age. The toilets inside were disgusting. These ones out here are really nice. So yeah, hit and miss day from Thorpe Park Resort. Hit and miss. Please remember, you do need to book in advance, although no one checked our ticket this morning at all, so we could have just rocked up with our annual passes. But to be safe, book in advance. In addition to booking in advance, you will need to bring a face covering. It is required on probably 80% of the rides, including all of the roller coasters. And to be fair, people are wearing them. That is kind of enforced as we go around. We didn't see any issues there. And people wearing it around the park is probably a 70-30 split. 30 wearing them, 70 not wearing them. But if you are looking to book to Thorpe Park, double check the ride is open that you want to go on. At the moment, they're having a little bit of a nightmare with tour that hasn't really opened this weekend. Obviously all the water rides, Walking Dead, Rush, all closed, which has made it a little bit busier. Children's family rides are pretty much shut apart from Flying Fish, so just make sure that what's open is what you want to go on. But from Thorpe Park Resort, we will be back obviously to see how it progresses. It is opening weekend for them. Chessington had a little bit of a head start on them, although, you know, Legoland on opening day was absolutely spectacular the way they laid it out. I just feel that maybe the Merlin parks should be speaking a little bit more to each other. And it's quite clear from visiting these parks that they're a world away from each other. But from one of our favourite places at Thorpe Park, we managed to get on quite a few rides today, including the Swarm. We'll see you next time.